Hello everyone, my name is Bharti Motwani. I am an assistant professor of English working under Journalism and Mass Communication Department of Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapeeth, Pune. Today we are going to talk about presentation skills and how we can make it more effective. So let's understand the very first and important point is to know your audience. So when you have to prepare the presentation, the very first thing which we should keep on our mind is to tailor your content every time depending upon the level of audience. Number 2, we should use structure to build on ideas. So no random preparation works, whereas if we just place our ideas logically, simplify the complex ideas with some steps or examples work best in favor of us. And let's also understand the value of using visuals. So it is claimed that 65% of people are visual learners. Using graphs, charts, infographics, pictures in our presentations really matter. And also repetition is your friend. It encourages people to remember the key points of the presentation. Audience considers it as a depth of material, whereas it's just a repetition in different words of the same idea. There are a few steps we would discuss. Step 1, give them a brief rundown of the key points. Step 2, tell them what you just told them. And step 3, body of your presentation. Let's also understand the importance of starting any presentation. It's always a good idea to have some interesting fact or a story or some thoughts to start with. So have a story to tell. How you convey the message decides the quality of your presentation. Present your information in an interesting way, and the story has to be logical or a truer one. It means don't lose the credibility. Also, while presenting yourself, always be relatable, authentic and enthusiastic. Help your audience engage mentally. Be yourself by being relaxed. Stay active, stay positive throughout the session. So in order to build your confidence, you must practice, practice and practice. There are a few ways to practice. You might try in front of your mates, family or mirror, and the best practice is just to videograph yourself. There are some techniques to grab the attention. For example, the first thing, when throw a problem to your audience. Have you ever felt not treated fairly at the workplace? Give them a solution. Example, well, we have designed or have been working on a new HR policy. Make it more relevant with your audience by connecting it with their personal experiences and feelings. Give interesting facts or statistics. For example, you might say, did you know that an average worker spends 8 hours a day at work but only does 4 hours of productive, useful work? I am here to tell you about quality control and how you can use this idea to make better use of time. Also, talking about short stories, share some anecdotes, personal experience or some incident. It should be relevant and believable. Also, not to miss about the introduction of your topic. For example, today I am going to talk about our new HR policies and how they affect you. Or, today we will talk about quality control and why we all are responsible for it, whichever department we work in. Remember these 3 steps. I'll begin by outlining the policies, give them a brief rundown here. Then I'll go on to highlight what they mean for you. Finally, I'll briefly discuss. So Dale Carnegie says, tell your audience what you are going to say it and tell them what you have just said. Signposting language. Now this language is also known as SP language and it has a very big role to play during presenting yourself. Use SP language to show where you are and where you are moving now. For example, next I would like to talk about example 2. Let's move on and discuss example 3. At this point I would like to turn to. Now about detailing. Let me get into some more details about, or let's examine in more depth, or I would like to elaborate on. So the conclusion is, to wrap up, let's remind ourselves of why this should matter to everyone. Let's review the key points from the session. So you have heard what all I had to say. What conclusion can you draw from it? Okay. Who doesn't face problems while presenting himself or herself? There is always a challenge in the form of audience or in the form of their questions. Sometimes collecting so much data, presenting yourself with all right information and confidence. So, there are a few tricks I would like to share with you. For example, keep the key points handy. Cue cards with key points of any important information, figures or particular words, ideas you have to use. Number 2, learn some useful phrases. For example, where was I? What was I saying? So, what's the word, figure, amount again? If you still don't get it, use the cue card. Now, after talking about the dealing with problems, let's talk about mistakes and clarifications. You might want to try these phrases. For example, let me rephrase that. Actually, what I meant to say is, or to clarify what I wanted to say that. Also, when you wish to add something you forgot, you can say, let me just add one more thing. I would like to discuss something to a point we discussed earlier. Let me return to an earlier point briefly. So, this allows you to correct your mistakes in a confident way without looking confused, in fact, very much in control, maintaining a smooth flow. And while answering to difficult questions, there are a few ways to deal with them. Number 1, while delaying answering, say, I have allocated time for questions at the end of this session. So, we will address your questions or ideas or issue later or maybe by the end of the session. Or you can also say, I am not in a position to answer that right now. However, I will get back to you on the same soon late this week. Meanwhile, think of an answer or research and surely get back. Or the end trip is, you can deflect the question by saying, that's an interesting question, but before I answer, I would like to know what's your take on it. Or you can say, you have raised an interesting point here. What does everyone else think about it? In this way, you will get some idea and you will also have audience to help you answer that question. Or at the end, you can dismiss the question. Dismiss the question if it's irrelevant. Say, thanks for your input, but I don't see its connection to what I'm saying. I don't mean to be blunt, but I don't know if it's relevant to your today's discussion. So, to deal with the difficult question, just remember the 3 Ds: delay, deflect or dismiss. Now, while concluding this presentation, here are a few top tips I would like to share with you. Number 1, know your audience. Number 2, know your subject well. Number 3, use powerful yet lucid language. Number 4, practice is the key. Number 5, always keep your cue cards ready. And number 6, and the last, take long deep breathe and relax. By saying so, I would like to conclude here. Hope you enjoyed this session and hope you would have used many of these points while being presenter and presenting the presentation skills. Thank you so much.